Okay, so welcome everybody to this evening's webinar on how to get experience in ecology. My name's Sue Searle and I'm a principal ecologist at Ecology Training UK. I've been an ecologist since 2003 and I was working in conservation for a couple of years before that as well. So I have a lot of experience of working in ecological consultancy. I was actually a career changer myself. I didn't start this career until I was 45. And so I also know about how to get experience to get myself into a job. And I had to go through getting a degree when I was in my 40s. So I know all about how to get experience and how to get into this job because I did it myself from, I was a nurse and a midwife actually for 15 years. So I do know what to do. I've also written a book called How to Become an Ecological Consultant. For those of you that didn't know that, you can get it on Amazon and you can get it on our website under online courses. So it's called How to Become an Ecological Consultant. You need to look for the third edition, which is the updated edition, and that one has a green cover. Okay, so if you want to read that one, it gives you lots of tips on how to approach this career, what skills you need, how to prepare for your first job and how to get your CV up to scratch and all that sort of thing. Okay, so the first thing that I was going to say was that getting experience is actually essential to getting a job in ecology because people need to know that you know something, if you see what I mean. And I think that this is something that a lot of people miss, particularly graduates. They think, oh, I've got a degree now, give me a job. And actually, it's not always that easy to just get a job by, having a degree, because you'll be in competition with other people that are actually, experienced in some way, maybe have a specialism or something like that. So the key here is really to get some experience. And of course, people say, well, how do I get experience if I haven't got a job and I can't get a job because I haven't got experience? So how can I do this, And so that's what this webinar is about, really, is to get you inspired to go out and get some experience. And one of the good things about getting experience, so I'm just going to go through my little list. When you get experience, it actually shows that you're interested. So I get to see a lot of CVs and some people have absolutely nothing on there about wildlife. They're not a member of a local group. They haven't done any surveys. They haven't got involved in anything. So you really need to be able to say, this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I want to do. And it shows that you're interested. So if you've got some experience, then people are going to say, oh, this person really is starting on their journey and they really want to get involved in this. So if you haven't got anything wildlifey at all on your CV, then this is what you need to be doing, is getting some experience. And it really is essential to make you stand out over other people that have got a degree or, if you haven't got a degree, then it's not the end of the world. There's plenty you can still be doing. There's lots of survey work that you can do without having a degree. If you do want to know what to do if you haven't got a degree, then the best thing to do is to email me and I'll put together a training program for you. And then obviously use what you've learned from tonight as well. So just to remind you that the email is ecologytraininguk@gmail.com. Okay, so getting experience shows that you're interested, and certainly before I got into consultancy, I already had a whole raft of things that I'd been involved in for quite a number of years, including running a children's wildlife group, a countryside ranger, sort of part-time, it was a volunteer warden, so I was working on an Rspb reserve. I was involved in different surveys like Operation Otter, which was a Devon-wide otter survey. So all sorts of things like that I was getting involved in, so that by the time I came to, wanting to look for a job, I already had a whole load of experience there. It also shows commitment, and I think that when you're writing your CV and there's a whole load of stuff about wildlife on there, it just shows that you are genuinely passionate about this. And obviously an employer's looking for people that are really into wildlife. They don't want someone that's not particularly into wildlife. So, you know, it does show that you've got an interest and a level of commitment. When you get more experience, you get more confidence. So it means that then when you start to apply for jobs, well, first of all, you'll feel more confident to apply for jobs because you'll have some experience and you'll have things that you can talk about at interview. But it also means you can have conversations with people that are interviewing you, and they'll be saying, oh, you know, tell me about Operation Otter. What did you do on that? And you'll be able to explain that you did this survey methodology, you found this, and this was interesting, and you know, what have you. So it just gives you much more confidence when you start applying for jobs, and also when you're in your interview. The other good thing about getting experience is you meet a load of new like-minded people, and that's always good because then you start to hear about other things, and it's a little bit like the hive mind. If you think about you know, a bee comes back and he tells all his mates about, oh, did you hear about this thing that's happening over here? And another one to say, did you hear about that thing? If you get to mix with a lot of people that are into this sort of thing, they'll tell you about all sorts of things that are going on that you weren't really aware of. And it's definitely a good move to be mixing with like-minded people. And I'll give you some examples of how you can do that a bit later. But what you'll find is also that you'll get more enthusiastic about the subject anyway, because you'll be meeting people that also love the subject, and they'll be kind of, you know, getting you to come along with them to help with things, and it's really good fun. The other thing about getting experience, and it depends on whether you're getting experience actually in a consultancy or whether it's with the back group or, you know, some other group, people get to know you. And I know when I first set up my consultancy back in 2003, I actually got most of my first year's work through people that I knew already. And it was quite interesting, really, because I was on the committee of the local mammal group. I was involved in the bat group. I was involved in all sorts of things. I'd been doing this sort of countryside ranger thing, and all these people knew me. And when I was able to say, oh, I'm now looking for work, I've gone freelance, like I say, my first year's work was through people that I knew already. And of course, then if you do jobs for them, then you'll do jobs for they'll recommend you, and you know, it sort of spreads like that, really. So the other thing is, if you're working for a consultancy, so for example, in the summer, I hire a lot of people to do bat work with me, because some surveys I need 8 people. If it's a big building or a complex of barns or something like that, I need 8 people, and so that 8 different people are getting some experience, but I also get to know those people. And so I get to know the people. I like the ones that are reliable, available, friendly, good fun to work with. And then if I have a bigger job, I'll ask them to help me, or if I have an actual employment job, I will think about them first. So think about getting experience as also being a way of like having not an interview so much, but you know, if people already know you, they're going to hire you more than if they didn't know you, if you see what I mean. So I think it's definitely worth getting to know people, and it's quite a small circle of people, really. So, you know, I'll give you some tips later on what people are looking for, and how to engage with people. But in a nutshell, it's basically be as helpful as possible, be as pleasant as possible, because people don't want to work with someone who's grumpy or, you know, whatever. But you want to also, you know, be prompt and professional and all of those things that you would expect to be in a job. You know, treat it like a job, if you like, and they'll see you performing and they'll like you and they'll want to work with you more. So it's just a, you know, a huge tip, really, to try and do that. So getting experience also gives you new skills and knowledge. So for example, if I need a new skill, I will either go and do a course on that skill or knowledge, or I will volunteer and actually go and help somebody to do that thing and learn that way. And when I first set up my consultancy, I was I'd never worked in consultancy before, and I just sort of started myself as a junior ecologist, and actually had a lot to learn, and I learned it by hiring other consultants who were more experienced than me to come along and help me with my bat work and my badger licenses and all this sort of thing. And so I learned that way. The idea of getting experience is that you actually are getting new skills and knowledge. And one top tip that I would say is don't do volunteering or anything like that. So I had a student who was doing some volunteering for the Wildlife Trust, and I said, oh, that's great, what are you doing? She said, stuffing envelopes for marketing campaigns. And I went, stop immediately, because that's not helping you. Okay, so the big tip really is, when you're trying to get experience, you don't want to be just volunteering for the Wildlife Trust. You want to be volunteering for the Wildlife Trust, doing something that you want to learn. Okay, so it's all very nice to be stuffing envelopes and helping the Wildlife Trust, but at the end of the day, if you're looking for work, you don't want to spend a minute of your time doing something that's not really useful to you. So it needs to be a mutual thing, that you're getting experience that you need, but you're also offering a service to them for free. So don't just take any old voluntary job. Make sure that it's going to give you the skills and knowledge that you're after to progress your career. And while you're getting experience, you could be working towards your survey licenses. So we've got the top 3. I've discussed this on other webinars, but the top 3 are bats, great crested newts and dormice. And you need quite a few hours of survey experience for these. And once you have a survey license, you can actually go and do the survey. So basically, a lot of the surveys for these 3 species you can't do until you have a survey license. But you can go along with a licensed worker, bat, great crested newt or dormouse worker, and you can help with the surveys and then gradually build up your survey experience until you get good enough to actually get your license. So, you know, if you're getting experience that's getting you towards a survey license, that is excellent. And if you have a survey license, you're much more employable. So if somebody is applying for one of my jobs and they say, oh, I've got a bat license, I will hire them over half a dozen other people that haven't got a bat license. So it's definitely worth looking at, working towards licenses. And I will be doing a webinar on licenses at some point in the next few weeks. Also, obviously, if you're getting experience doing something in nature conservation, you are actually helping something. So it might be you're monitoring populations, or you might be working on a nature reserve, either doing surveys or helping with habitat management or something like that. So all of the experience that you're getting is actually really helpful to, to help them and nature conservation as well as yourself. And if you're getting experience in the ways that I'm going to explain to you during this webinar, you're also getting experiences that you wouldn't be able to get for yourself. So a lot of people say, well, is it okay to just go out and walk around with my own bat detector and see what I can find? And I said, well, not really, because what are you learning? You'll learn if you're walking around with a licensed bat worker and they can talk to you and you can ask all your questions that you want to ask, and you learn so much more by going out with someone who's experienced. So, look at it as a way of getting new experiences that you wouldn't be able to get before, and actually having experts around you that can help you to learn as well. So it's just a really unique experience and well worth doing. Okay, so one way you can get experience is through training, and we have a number of courses here that we do, and we have a load of ecology and surveying courses. So we've got bats, badgers, great crested newts. Oh, can't see the newts behind my photo. Dormice, reptiles, water voles and otters. We also have beavers as well. And then we've got, so with those ecology and surveying courses, you'll learn about the individual species, about the legislation, about the ecology of the animal, about the survey techniques and the conservation of them and all the threats and things like that. So it's a very comprehensive course about the different species, and these are our individual main protected species. You can do, to start off with, is do the Surveying for Protected Species course, which is like the first course I would recommend if you want to get into ecology, is to do Surveying for Protected Species, because it covers a whole load of species, all of those species in one course, and then you can go off and do the other ones in more detail if you want to. So another thing is to make sure that you are reasonable at botany. So one of the key skills, what we call a key skill for ecology consultancy, is botanical skills. So if you can't identify pretty much all the plants that you're looking at when you go for a walk, then you need to start working on your botany. And if you really don't know where to start, then beginner's botany is a good place to start. We do have it online, and we also have it as a taught course in some lovely places like this photo at the bottom here, which is a site in Exeter, but we also run it in Hampshire as well. So yeah, so if you're really struggling to make a start with botany, then you can do beginner's botany, and it's a great way to get you started. And a lot of people find that, you know, once they've done that, they're away, and that's fine. You can also do grass ID and tree ID. So those are different species that you can concentrate on. Beginner's botany does cover quite a large number of trees in it anyway. So, you know, if you want to do that one, that's fine. And we do about 10 grasses as well in beginner's botany. The online beginner's botany is available to be booked now, but we don't send the materials out until early May, because basically we don't want people trying to study beginner's botany in the winter, because there's nothing around to identify. And when you're a beginner, you need to be learning from the flowering plants, so you want to have as many flowers as possible. So it's going to be available from May to September, which is when you've got most of the flowering plants out, but you can book it now. Another core skill is phase 1 habitat mapping, which is basically how you map habitats using a standard methodology. If you're not sure what phase 1 is, then it's basically a mapping system that was devised by JNCC back in the 1980s, and it's still used now. And as part of our preliminary ecological appraisal, when we go along to a site to assess it, we always do a habitat map using phase 1 methodology. So if you have no clue what that is, I would definitely do that course. We do it online and taught. And, you know, if you've got phase 1 habitat mapping on your CV, then that's starting to show that you're more serious about this than, you know, just doing otter surveys and butterfly surveys and things like that. I've already mentioned surveying for protected species. So it covers all of the species that are in the top line there. And it's just an overview of the legislation, the different protected species, and a bit about their ecology and the survey technique. So that's definitely a core skill. And if you're doing certificate in ecological consultancy, then phase 1 and surveying for protected species are in the core skills week, which we do at the beginning of the course for 5 days. And also, if you have a relevant degree or a reasonable amount of experience and no relevant degree, you can apply to come onto the certificate in ecological consultancy, which is basically a full training to get you into ecological consultancy. So it gives you all the training that you need over a period of between 7 months and 2 years. So you've got lots of modules that you need to do. And I've explained it a little bit earlier, but yeah, it's basically a very comprehensive training course. We've had 400 people do this course now over the last 13 years, and everybody that wants to get into consultancy has got in that's done this course. So it gives you lots of confidence, it gives you lots of skills and experience and lots of knowledge as well. So please think about that if you're interested. So Yeah, so if you want to get a head start in employment, then getting some training is definitely a very targeted and direct way of getting a quick amount of experience. So for example, if you wanted to get your great crested newt license, then if you did a course, you'd get to know more in that one day than you would in several surveys, or many surveys really, of great crested newts. So it does include some surveying as well. But the same with bats, for example. I've just helped a couple of young ladies get through their bat license, and I did that by doing a course called Bat Assess, Revise and Assess. So basically we go through all the ecology and the conservation, the legislation, health and safety and surveying and all that sort of stuff in a course. And then for Revise and Assess is when you've done all your survey experience that you need to get a license. I will then assess you to see if you're ready, and I'll sign you off. Yeah, so you can order these courses there. Most of them are now available online because we had to cancel so many last year. I put loads of them online, so you can do them online in the comfort of your own home at any time. So as soon as you press the button and pay for it, you will get the materials and you can do the course straight away. If you prefer taught courses, there are a number of taught courses available as well. And at the moment we are taking bookings, but be prepared for, cancellations just because of the situation that we're in with the COVID at the moment. But on normal years, we have around 40 to 50 courses available in the summer. So look out for those on our website. Yeah, I know it's difficult at the moment with the COVID restrictions, and a lot of people are just saying, oh no, we're not doing anything, but there are opportunities. And also if you just are making contact with people and they get to know you, and you're on the radar sort of thing, because nobody will know that you're out there looking unless you tell them, will they? So it's really important that you kind of make contact with people and try and get involved. And the more people you know, the more you'll hear as well. It's like the hive mind I was telling you about. So people, they'll tell you about things. And that's one of the reasons why we have a WhatsApp group on the certificate course, because everybody puts up jobs and volunteer programs and things that people can get involved in, and then they also ask each other for advice on different things, and they put things up that they want to identify and things like that. So it's quite a good idea to sort of mix with as many people that are into wildlife as possible, and things will come up, even if it's just going out with an individual other person for a walk and learning some things from them. You will learn a lot of stuff. Okay, so you can get experience through volunteering, and I've got a list here of the different organisations that offer volunteer experience. So the Wildlife Trust, or certainly our local Wildlife Trust, actually has a volunteer sheet that they send out every few weeks, and it gives you all the different volunteer positions that are there that they want help with, and it might be something for a day, or it might be something on the same day every week, or once a month, or something like that. So see what's available. They might have some exciting project that you want to get involved in, like our local Wildlife Trust actually coordinates all the dormouse surveys in the county, so it's really useful to kind of be in touch with them and find out about that. The National Trust also, they have rangers that look after the grounds and the woodlands and things like that, so they're quite good to get involved with, and they often have very significant bat roosts in some of the old houses or in the woodlands that they manage, so they often need help with surveys, or they might have some sort of bio blitz or something like that, and they do bat surveys, dormouse surveys, and all sorts of things like that. So it's definitely worth getting in touch with your local National Trust rangers and seeing if they've got anything going on. The national parks also have rangers as well, so you could get involved with those. They might be looking for surveyors to do certain activities. The local authority countryside rangers, they're also quite active in doing all sorts of things. I know in Exeter, so I live near Exeter in Devon, and at the moment there is one countryside ranger now for the whole of Exeter, and there used to be like, I don't know, about 6. So he's always up for some help. So if you can say, is there anything you'd like me to do? So for example, if you did your phase 1 course, you might say to the countryside ranger, have you got any sites that you would like me to do a habitat map of for you? And then you can put that on your CV and actually say, yes, I've done habitat mapping of all the countryside parks in Exeter, you know. And it's a great way to get experience, and it's a really good way to practice phase 1 mapping, because there's nothing like actually doing it to actually learn how to do it. If you're near a wildfowl and wetland trust site, there's plenty of volunteer opportunities there. They are quite big into obviously the wild birds as well as the captive birds as well. So have a look and see what they're doing. I know the one in Slimbridge does have monitoring of the swans in the winter, but it also has water vole surveys going on and all sorts of things like that. The Rspb are also very good, and they do a lot of residential things. So if you're at university or if you have some time on your hands, then it's a good idea to get involved with the Rspb. So you can do ranger type jobs for about, I think it's a minimum of a week and a maximum of a year. I remember when my daughter was studying her ecology degree, I said to her, right, you want to get as much experience as you can in the holidays, because when you're at uni, you're actually only there for 6 months, and the other 6 months you're on holiday. And she took herself off every summer and went to an Rspb reserve, and they gave her free accommodation in return for her time, and she just had to find a bit of money for petrol and food. And she got so much experience, it's unbelievable. And she got to know the local area where she was about to go to university. She got to learn how to do different types of bird surveys and insect surveys, and help with visitors, so talking about wildlife to people as well and things like that. So have a look at what Rspb is offering. It might be a bit dodgy at the moment because of COVID, but it's definitely worth looking at that. And also the National Trust and also does those sorts of placements as well. Another thing to look at is if you have any local nature reserves. So, you know, if they're not owned by the National Trust, the Wildlife Trust, or the Rspb, they might be owned by somebody else, and get involved if you can with those. Offer your services to perhaps do some habitat mapping, or, you know, do some bird surveying or something like that. And then we've got the national and local surveys. So I've already mentioned some that I've done in Devon, but there's also a lot of national surveys that you can get involved in. And one of them, well, I'm going to go through a list of them in a minute, but there's a lot going on that you can do, and it looks really good on your CV if you can say that you're involved with some of these surveys, because you then also get involved with that organisation, and other things stem from that. You meet like-minded people and all the things I said before, and it just sort of snowballs from there, really. So has anybody got any other organisations that they've done volunteering for that I haven't mentioned on this list?
Hi, for me, I found TCB was also a really good website. So you can put in your postal code, and then it shows you what's happening in your area. And there's often lots of stuff that comes up. Obviously, all of them said they're not doing anything at the moment, but yeah, no more on the 22nd.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's the TCV is the Conservation Volunteers, and they do a lot of obviously conservation work on nature reserves and things like that. They often work alongside the Wildlife Trust and Rspb and come and do projects like that. And somebody else has mentioned local projects. So this is where if you start to get to know your local people, you'll start to hear about your local projects as well. And there'll be things that people are trying to set up, or you can set up your own project as well. And then also somebody's mentioned, Ruth has mentioned that she does some with Natural England. So Natural England, obviously, if you're in England, They will have various activities going on. They're often the hub for the bat training, but also the local bat group is worth joining. And I'm going to be talking about local groups in a minute, but you definitely, if you get involved with local wildlife groups and bat groups. So for example, in Devon, we've got 2 bat groups. We've got a research group and the normal bat group. We've also got a Devon mammal group. And I think we've got Devon Reptile and Amphibian group, which is called DRAG. And there's various others. There's Butterfly Conservation Group. There's a British Trust for Ornithology group in Devon. There's also Frog Life. That we've got somebody here suggesting the Frog Life. I'll pop that one on. Actually, I forgot about them. But lots of people are doing surveys and they need help with it. So yeah. We've also got maybe, so I'm just reading on the chat here, we've got some rivers trusts and natural history societies, local barn owl groups, and you can be starting to work towards your barn owl license if you want to get into that. So there's lots of things going on. It's just about getting involved, really, and I think it's very isolating at the moment being in lockdown, isn't it? Because nothing seems to be happening, but I'm sure there's still things happening, because I know the local groups are doing their trainings and webinar talks and things like that. So there's still plenty of scope to be learning things. And I think when you get involved with a local group, that's when you start to meet your local people, and also where you start to hear about local projects, because people in conversation just talk about other things that are happening around, and you can get involved in those things. Okay, so one of the things to think about is volunteering, and I know volunteering is sort of a bit annoying, because you think, well, why can't I just be paid for what I'm doing? But actually, if you haven't got any skills, then you can't really expect someone to pay you to do something you don't know how to do it. And this is how you get your skills. Okay, so I ran a children's wildlife group for 10 years. I did some sort of countryside ranger type things and education ranger and things like that. I did as a volunteer for various organizations, and it just gave me a lot more confidence and made me research things. And by teaching, I actually really like teaching, so I found that if I am teaching about a subject, I have to know a lot about it, and it helps me to clarify my mind about that subject if I have to teach about it. So it was really good. When I first started running the children's wildlife group, all I knew really was I didn't really know much at all, really. I knew a bit of botany, but I had a lot of support from the Wildlife Trust, whose umbrella it was under, and they gave me lots of resources. But also what I did was I just asked experts to come and take a session each time. So one time I had a badger expert, and another time we had a reptile expert, and then an otter expert, and we just went like that and learned more and more from other people. And then eventually I was able to actually teach those things myself. So it's quite good fun, really. Okay, so we've got a whole load of national monitoring surveys, which I think it's important to be aware of, and I've listed them here, but I'm just going to go through them one at a time and show you the websites and give you the links so that you can go and explore for yourself. So we've got BTO, which is the British Trust for Ornithology, so that's the bird people. We've got NARS, which is the National Amphibian and Reptile Recording Scheme, which is all about obviously newts, frogs, toads, newts, snakes and lizards. We've got Bat Conservation Trust, and they do a number of surveys that you can get involved with without any experience, but it's a great way of getting experience. People's Trust for Endangered Species, or PTES, also has a lot of surveys that you can get involved in, and they are the key driver for the National Dormouse Monitoring Scheme. So it's a good organisation to get involved with if you want to go for your dormouse licence. and they have a lot of really excellent training. They also produce the Dormouse survey, the Dormouse training log, which is your sort of training program that you need to do for getting your Dormouse license. There's also Butterfly Conservation that does national monitoring surveys, and a whole load of others. So has anybody got any others? Do you want to just put them into chat quickly if you can think of any others? Has anybody got any other national surveys that they know of? So somebody mentioned Frog Life earlier. I presume they've got some national surveys.
I just wanted to ask, I'm not entirely sure if it is, but I assume it is. I was talking with someone the other day about OPM surveys, I assume with the Forestry Commission.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% sure it's a thing, but it might be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, anyone that hires rangers of any sort, they're going to have something going on, aren't they? So yeah, see what's around really. Somebody's put the National Bat Monitoring Programme. Yeah, that comes under Bat Conservation Trust. So I'll be talking about that in a moment. And somebody's put Bee Conservation Trust. So yeah, there's lots of different organisations that you know when you're first starting out you're not really aware of, and you would find it really difficult to know where to start really. But hopefully this webinar will help you get started. So Frog Life, Beth has said there that she used it for part of her Great Crested Newt licensing, so that's good. There's also a UK pollinator monitoring scheme. Who runs that, Kaylee? If you can put that on. The other thing is a lot of these organisations also do courses that are relevant to their expertise. So if you want to get into Great Crested Newts, for example, then I recommend obviously Frog Life, as we've already heard, and NARS, and they do training sessions and actually allocate you some surveys to do, and you work underneath somebody's license so that you can actually get that experience as a volunteer. A few years ago, I wanted to get my level 4 bat license. So bat licenses are at different levels, and when you first start, it's level 1. And all you can do with a level 1 license is enter a bat roost and do a survey. And then level 2, you can use an endoscope, and you can use you can handle the bats. And then level 3, you can use mist nets, and level 4, you can use harp traps. And I'm quite sort of keen on getting as many bat qualifications as possible. And I thought, well, how can I get my level 4? So what I did was a scheme came up in Devon, which was about Beckstein's. It's a very rare bat called a Beckstein's bat. And they wanted to know whether their distribution was wider than they originally thought. So it's basically sort of in the middle of the south of England. So it's not really in the southeast or the southwest. It's kind of, you know, just in the middle of the south. And so they wanted everybody that was in the counties around those areas to do a Beckstein's harp trapping exercises in different woodlands around the counties, and find out if you could find any Becksteins. And I actually got trained by one of the top bat workers, who is a professor of mammals and bats and stuff. And he actually taught me how to do harp trapping. So I worked under his license to do the Beckstein's project in Devon with some other people. So we spent some great evenings with hot chocolate drinks, sitting by the harp trap in the middle of the night by these harp traps in woodlands around Devon. It was great fun, actually. And so then when I wanted to renew my bat license, which you do every year, they said, do you want to add anything on this year? And I said, yeah, I want to add on my level 4. So I just said, I've been working on the Beckstein's project. I've been trained by this guy, and you know, can I have my level 4? And they said, yeah, okay then. So you know, so I actually gained another bat license by actually volunteering. And even at the point where I was, you know, already a senior ecologist with three levels of bat license, I still did volunteering to get a new skill, because nobody would pay me to do harp trapping, and I didn't know how to do it, and we didn't have harp traps and all this sort of thing. So it was just a great way to get a new skill, really. Okay, so I'm sure that other people will know of some others, and we've mentioned a few others. So I'm just going to go through these ones individually, just so that we can get some inspiration. And obviously it's a bit difficult at the moment because we've got the COVID restrictions, and it's a pain. But you know, these things are available, and it's definitely worth getting involved with your local group. So, for example, this is British Trust for Ornithology, so BTO, and they do a national survey called the Breeding Bird Survey. So if you're any good at doing bird ID, then you can get involved as a volunteer, and they actually have all these squares all around Britain, and they've been monitoring them for decades. Okay, and what happens is people sort of start doing the survey and then they can't do it anymore because they move away or whatever, and some of the squares don't get surveyed. So what they want you to do, and there's no reason why you can't do this, you know, with COVID, in my opinion, is basically you go and do 2 early morning visits in spring, and they give you a 1K square, and all you have to do is count all the birds that you see and hear while you're walking 2 lines across this 1K square. And it's quite an interesting survey methodology. You can either go to BTO and your local group. I mean, I learned how to do this methodology through a workshop that BTO local group did. And I wasn't that confident that I would be able to pick up all the birds. So a couple of times somebody came out with me and just sort of said, oh yeah, you're fine, you know, but you could maybe just ask if you could tag along with somebody if you're not great at birds, and go along with a good birder on the breeding bird survey and actually learn how to do this methodology, which is a standard methodology that we use as ecologists as well. And it's a great contribution to the bird data that we have about sadly declining bird species. Not all species are declining though, but yeah, so I would definitely try and get in touch with your local organisation. I've put down the bottom here the websites of each of these organisations, and I would definitely get in touch, because as you can see from this menu, you've got contact your regional organiser, so you can just get in touch and say, I'm interested in doing a breeding bird survey and I'm quite good at birds, or I'm interested in doing a breeding bird survey but I'm not that confident with the birds, but I'd like to tag along with somebody, and you know, see what happens and see if you can get yourself involved in that. If you do want to learn about doing bird surveys, we do have a bird survey techniques course available. We have a very good birder who's actually very high up in BTO who runs it for us, and he actually was a certificate student a few years ago, and very nice man called Roger. So you could learn it through that if you want to, or you can contact BTO and do it that way. Okay, so this is NARS, so the National Amphibian and Reptile Recording Scheme, and they actually have the national survey. So you've got there's, if you'd like to help with regular monitoring of widespread amphibians and reptiles in your local area, have a look at the widespread amphibian and reptile surveys page, then sign up for the NARS. So, you know, even if you're just seeing a frog or a toad in your garden, you can still submit records. It's interesting actually, because when you start to look at data in data banks, you'll notice that it's actually a distribution map of surveyors rather than the actual animals. So if you look at all the records for bats in Devon, for example, you can say, oh look, that's where Phil lives, that's where Sue lives, that's where Jonathan lives, you know, and it's like we give loads of bat records from our local patch, and so you get all these sort of clusters of records. But recording is really, really important, because obviously we want to know where all these animals are, how many we've still got left, and if they're disappearing. So this is why it's good to get involved with the national surveys, because it's really contributing to our knowledge about these species, and it's well worth you know, getting involved if you can. So there's also they do a great crested newt training. I know some people that did the training with them to have a look at that. But there's also, so you've got here, if you'd like to record an adder sighting or monitor an adder population near you. So if you live near a heathland, for example, you might have some adders and you might want to get involved with that adder survey. And there's also here the rarer species like natterjack toads, sand lizards and smooth snakes. So all of those you need a license to do a survey. So if you want to get involved in those, you can get some training and maybe work towards a license if that's a species that's a specialism around your way. And then so this is the actual NARS, which is the National Amphibian and Reptile Recording Scheme, and you can then have a look at this and work out what you want to do. So for example, there's random squares surveys. So they have done for 10 years, they've done these random square surveys, and it's just a question of going along to ponds or suitable habitat and seeing if these species are present. And you can register for it here. I'm pretty sure that you know, you can just do this really. So find out about it if it's you know, resonating with you, and also, you know, make the most of the resources they've got and the training events that they've got, because there's lots of information on these sites and in these organisations. Okay, so this is Bat Conservation Trust, and they are involved in the National Bat Monitoring Programme, and that is actually a number of surveys that are looking at different species of bats in different ways. So for example, they do the waterway survey, which is looking at Dorbenton's bats and other bats that are around waterways. They do the Roost Counts, and I've been to some fantastic Roost Counts. I mean, these are sites where they have large numbers of bats living in a building or a cave, and they want people to count how many come out twice a year. And some of the places I've been, honestly, you just see hundreds of bats. It's fantastic. So if you can count and you can hold a bat detector, then definitely get involved in Roost Counts. And sometimes the bat groups are doing those. So you might meet people through the bat group who are doing particular Roost Counts, and they're happy to have people come along and help them with it and maybe take it over time. So definitely get involved with that one. We've also got the sunset and sunrise surveys. So that's where you're wandering around, just recording the species that you see as you're walking around. There's woodland surveys, hibernation surveys, and there's also a bats in churches study as well. So they're trying to find out which churches have bats and all that sort of thing. So yeah, so the Bat Conservation Trust is sort of your place to go if you want to get involved with national monitoring. And a lot of these you don't need a license for, but it's really good to get some experience through these surveys. So here I've just done a close-up of that menu, and you can see the different surveys that you can get involved with. So basically just go along and have a look at these, go along to the website and have a look at these. You don't need a license. You don't really need any experience. If you don't feel confident to do them, then you could try and find people that are involved in these surveys. Maybe ask BCT to put you in touch with people, or through your local bat group, and start going out and doing some of these, because the more experience you get with bats, the quicker you can get your license, and it's really worth doing. There's also usually some local bat projects going on. So in Devon, for example, we have the Becksteins project, which was a few years ago. We also have the Greater Horseshoe Bat project, which is happening at the moment. So we've got greater horseshoes, which are one of the rare species in Britain, and they they want to know where they are, basically. So there's a load of people going out with detectors and just recording stuff to find out where the horseshoes are. There's our local bats in churches, through so with Bat Conservation Trust, the local bat groups are affiliated to them. So the local group will take over the Bats in Churches project for the county. Obviously, there's lots of national bat monitoring scheme activities going on as well. So there's lots of people going out doing roost counts and waterway surveys and all that sort of thing. We've also got the Devon Bat Group and the Devon Bat Research Group. So the Bat Research Group actually goes out and does mist netting and harp trapping and things like that. So it's, there might be more than one bat group that you could get involved in. Also, the University of Exeter does some bat research as well. So this is something you find out when you start at the bat group. So you go to the bat group and they say, oh, did you know so-and-so is doing bat work and so-and-so? And we found out through them that the University of Exeter was doing some research. They've actually done a lot of research on bats and wind turbines. So you can get involved in something like that, where you're going along to find if any bats are killed by wind turbines and what factors might have affected that and this sort of thing. And then other bat projects are being carried out by consultancies as well. So, I mean, the consultancies are where the real bat work is happening, really. And if you can start to think about getting in touch with your local consultancies, then they're the people that are doing surveys every day, whereas a lot of these other more volunteer, like the Greater Horseshoe Bat Project, you're probably only going out once a month or something like that, whereas with consultancies, they're going out every night doing bat surveys. And I've got subcontractors that work for me that literally come out several nights a week, every week in the summer. Okay, so just really find out about your local bat surveys and your local bat group. Maybe the Wildlife Trust is doing something. There's all sorts of things going on anyway, and this is just bats. That's an example. If you're not really into bats, you're into reptiles and amphibians, for example, then there'll be reptile and amphibian groups. There'll be the national monitoring and all sorts of things like that you can get involved in. PTES is also good. So People's Trust for Endangered Species is also a good place to check out surveys. So have a look down here at the website to get involved on surveys. And you can see here on their website involved. And there's a whole load of surveys that you can get involved with. So I'll just show you a bit further down on the website. So you've got all sorts of surveys, like you've got Living with Mammals, that's the garden surveys of mammals. You've got hedgehog surveys, you've got stag beetle surveys, you've got the hedgehog map. Then we've got the National Dormouse Monitoring. We've got the Great British Hedgerow Survey. That's a great one, actually. They give you some very good resources to go out and survey hedges, and you can just go out and all you have to do is survey the hedge, decide if it's species rich or if it's on a bank or if it's got a wall on it or something like that, and start monitoring the local hedgerows. There's also orchard surveys, water vole monitoring, and wood pasture and parkland monitoring as well. And then there's mammals on the roads, which is about road kills, and the big hedgehog map. So sadly, a lot of the hedgehog records are from dead hedgehogs. PTES also do the National Dormouse Conference every year, although they didn't do it last year. And so getting involved in conferences is also a good idea if you get involved with these organisations. Another organisation you get involved in is Butterfly Conservation, and they have national recording and monitoring. They have developed the Butterfly Atlas, the Millennium Butterfly Atlas. They also do the UK butterfly monitoring. So Yeah, so butterflies, birds and bats are the three things that are really key indicators that are used in this country to decide whether the health of the environment is going up or down. So butterflies are good to get involved in. And again, they've got local groups. We've got a Devon Butterfly Conservation Group, and I get a newsletter from them. I'm a member actually, so I get a newsletter. There's lots of things that you can get involved with them. So this is if you press on the UK Butterfly Monitoring Scheme button on the homepage, you'll get to this other website, which is the national monitoring. And there's a lot of places that already have transects set up, and you just go along and count the butterflies that are there. It is quite a high effort survey though. You have to go, I think it's every 2 weeks for the whole summer. But if you're working on a nature reserve, or if you're involved in conservation in any way, you can set one of these up on any site that you want to and start recording the butterflies. So it's quite good, and it's a good way of getting some experience. And just if you're interested in butterflies, the best ID chart that I know of is by the FSC, which is the Field Studies Council. So if you just put FSC chart or FSC butterfly chart, you'll find this fold out chart that has every single species of butterfly on it, the real size that they actually are. And it's really, really good. So you've got every butterfly there. And when you're out in the field, it's good to take one of those with you. Okay, and then another thing, once you've sort of explored or you're volunteering with the NGOs and local authorities and things like that, you can also get experience through doing subcontracting. So I'm talking really about consultancies here. So if you want to become an ecological consultant, if you can get involved with consultancies at any point from now on, and just go along and say, look, I'm really keen to get involved in consultancy. I've done this course or that course, or I've done this and I've done that, or I haven't done anything, but I have got a degree. Just go along and say, is there anything that I can help you with, or tag along with you. Okay, so the big things that usually consultancies will offer you in the survey season. So bear in mind that we have a survey season. So usually sort of April to October, most busy May to September is the survey season, and that is the time that you need to be actively making sure that you're out doing as many surveys as possible, because at this time of the year nobody's doing anything. Okay, so now is a really good time to be contacting your ecological consultancies, because they're starting to look for people for the survey season to help them. So you can offer to help with bat surveys, reptile surveys, great crested newts surveys. Those are the main ones that they get subcontractors to help with. If you don't have any experience, they can take you out for a couple of visits. I mean, a lot of this isn't rocket science, you know, it's something that anyone can do. I mean, my son, who is not into ecology at all, has done bat surveys, reptile surveys and newt surveys, just because I was like, I need some extra people. And often things like the bat survey, if you're doing a bat transect survey, it will be a one licensed person walking around and an assistant, because you can't walk around in the dark on your own. So you can offer to, you know, be an assistant for a transect survey, which is basically taking a walk in the dark with a bat detector and writing down everything that you see. You know, and while you're walking around, you're getting to know this person, and you can ask lots of questions about bats. Ideally, they'd like someone who's had a bit of training first. So if you really want to get into bats, I would definitely do our bat ecology and surveying course, which is available online and taught, although all the taught ones are full at the moment. We're having to do another date. But you can certainly do the course online, and it's just as good. Once you know a bit about bats, then that's when you can say, look, I know a bit about bats and I'd really like to start working towards my license and getting some experience. And, you know, they need health and safety assistance. I've taken boyfriends, neighbours, my children, or you know, anybody basically on a bat survey, because they just need to be there for my safety, not to be able to actually survey for a bat as such.
Sue,
Hello. Yes.
is it worth getting an echo meter touch too?
Yes.
Definitely.
If you can afford it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saving up my money. Thank you. That's all I need
Yeah,
to know.
yeah. If boyfriends plural, yes. I've had more than one boyfriend.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Somebody's Ian's put, I don't have a degree, but I have over 10 years experience in bat, great crested newts and reptile surveys for ecological consultancies. Well, great. I hope they're paying you to do that. Is Ian on there? Are they paying you?
Yes, they're paying me.
Good.
Yes, they're paying me.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good, because what's happening there is that even if you haven't got a relevant degree, and you know you might not necessarily want to become an ecological consultant, you might just want to be a surveyor, you can still make a living doing that. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that and what sort of things you do, and you know, is it quite seasonal? I guess it is. Can you tell us a bit about it, Ian?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. It's largely seasonal work, but I find that, yeah, as you say, it's mainly from sort of May till September. Although last year actually, I was fortunate enough that I got some seasonal work between sort of lockdowns, and from sort of August till beginning of October, I was doing some great crested newt. I was doing some sort of great crested newt and reptiles work. I've been involved in lots of different projects, including I was a ecological clerk of work on HS2 last year in the West Midlands, and also
Okay.
I was doing back-to-back dawn dusk surveys, which was quite exhausting, but great experience for bat works in the East Midlands on working for an ecological consultancy. I find I don't know if I'm allowed to name any names of consultancies or not, but
Yeah.
Thompson Ecology is a very good one to cut your teeth in ecologically. They do take on a lot of people with limited experience.
Yeah, they do.
And RSK Ecological back in the day was one of the first ones that I got work with. But I've got lots of experience on lots of different projects. Yeah, a good idea. Email them speculative CV. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There will definitely. Yeah, there's work. The work is there. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't know about how this pandemic's going to affect things, but the work is there. Hopefully,
they're still quite busy. Yeah.
I've had a lot of work from
Yeah.
paid work as well. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So with this getting experience through subcontracting and working with your local consultancies, you basically just need to look at, you know, go onto Google, find out your local consultancies.
Yeah.
First of all, decide whether you're ready to start doing anything, or whether you need some more training first. Maybe do some of those volunteering things that we've talked about already. But if you're, can I just finish a second? Hold
Yeah,
your
sorry, I'm
thought.
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
And then just approach them, just write them or email them and just say, you know, I'm in the local area, I'm interested in doing some seasonal survey work. Is there anything I can help you with? And see what they say. And you might say, I've had a bit of training in this, or I've got some experience in that. And if they offer you some seasonal work, you can charge between £12 and £20 per hour. And it's not great money, because, you know, a bat survey is only 2 hours, so it's not that much. But it's a great way to get some training. It's a great way to get some experience. And these are the people that are doing all the survey work, really. The local groups are not doing anywhere near as many surveys as consultants are. But I would say that try and get some training first before you go in. So if you start saying, oh, you know, I want to do some bat work, but you don't know anything about bats, then I think get a little bit of training first, so you can go in and you're a little bit clued up, and they know that you know something. Okay. And then once a month you just invoice them, And it's a great way to get some experience. So who was asking that question just now?
Sorry, that was me. So I'm so sorry, Sue.
It's okay.
I just thought, because I know I feel like sending speculative CVs to consultancies. I know when he asked me how much per hour, I know I said £9, and now I look at that and say that and see it's quite low, but I don't know how to go back and change it and be there like, actually, can I get a bit more, because that feels wrong.
Have you got any experience?
I have a degree and I have been out consultant with ecological consultants before, once or twice.
Okay. I think just do say 4 or 5 at the rate that you've said, and then just say, you know, are you happy with my work? I'd like to charge more.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Okay.
Or just be brave and say, I've had second thoughts, I'm going to charge more. Tell them how much you want to charge.
I felt a bit uncomfortable, and I think that was the best idea, was to actually do a few and then say, once I know them, and then say, hi, can I have a bit more money, please? Please. Somehow.
Yeah. It's a difficult conversation to have, I know, but you know, they're probably charging their client a lot more than they're paying you, so I wouldn't worry too much. There comes a point where the price is too much, and like I've got people that say, okay, I'll come and do a bat survey and I'll charge you £50 an hour, and I'll just say get lost, because I'm not, I can't make any money. I just can't make any money out of that. So
I just didn't want to be rude and like miss my opportunity of actually having a job this summer, because obviously I graduated last year and I've had nothing because of the COVID and that, so I haven't been able to do anything since graduating.
Well, in that case, £9 is you know, fantastic, isn't it, compared to volunteering? You know, but if you feel confident to say that, can we revisit the money, because now you've seen, like, let them see you do some work and the quality of your work, because they might say, well, you still need a bit of supervision. So we can, I mean, what I used to do is I used to say, right, you can come out on a couple of surveys and just shadow us and we'll see how you get on. And honestly, I had one guy, he spent the whole season, he didn't see a bat once. And I was like, I can't pay you to do bat surveys if you can't see the bats. I was like, he couldn't do it, you know, and then other people pick it up really quickly. So as soon as I feel like they are doing the job, I'll start paying them. So, you know, be kind to the consultants as well. Don't expect them to pay you for something if you've got no experience at all, because you might not be quite ready, you know. And I'm sure you can just do a few surveys at the price that you've said, and then say, you know, now I'm a bit more experienced, I'd like to charge £15 an hour or something like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm basically saying go and get in touch with your local consultancies. Think about it a bit carefully though, because if you, like I was saying, if you don't know anything about bats, then trolling up and saying I want to start doing bat surveys is not that great, because you've got so much to learn. So I would definitely do the bat ecology and surveying online course, at least the online course, and then you'll know all about all the different species. You'll know about how to do the different survey methodologies. You'll know the time of year to do them, how long you do it for, what you're recording, you know, all of those things. So you'll have that training, and then you'll be keyed up then to actually be able to start the survey season saying, I've done this bat ecology and surveying course, I know the survey methodologies, I know about the ecology of bats, and I know a lot about bats now, I just want to get some experience. And the same with the newts. If you've got no experience with newts, I don't think it's so important with newts, because there's only one species that you're looking at, and that's the great crested newt. Whereas with the bats, we've got 17 species, so you need to know a lot about all sorts of different species, they all have different niches. But with newts and dormice, for example, you're just learning about one species, so it's a lot easier to get those licenses. Okay, so I'm just going to move on, and then yeah, so we've got the Bat Ecology and Surveying course, which is taught and online. We've got Reptile Ecology and Survey, we've got taught and online. So when I say online, I mean it's like a self-study one, and it's basically me giving a talk like this to, you know, the classroom as I would do in the normal course, and then I take you out on the survey and show you how to do it, basically. And then Great Crested Newt Ecology and Surveying is a taught course, so you can do that one. And we've got Reptile and Amphibian ID and Surveying, which is an online course, which is just about IDing them, because when I first started doing reptile work, I wasn't really sure even whether I was looking at a sand lizard or a common lizard. Actually, it was always a common lizard, but you know, it's when you first start doing it. Obviously, you might be able to get involved in phase one. We do phase one online and taught courses, so you could do that as well, but you're not so likely to get subcontracting doing phase one. All right, the most likely is bats, reptiles and great crested newts. Okay, so and then also, to get experience, have a look at some of these pages, these job pages and forums. So there's a Facebook group called British Ecologists, and on there you could say, hi, I'm a new graduate and I really want to get some experience this year, and I live in Chester, and you know, is there anyone out there that can give me some experience? And a lot of people will give you advice and, you know, offer things. So I definitely think it's worth joining that one. There's also a Facebook group called UK Ecology Jobs and Courses, and that one, they wanted to stop clogging it up with courses and job adverts and just be an ecology Facebook group where people could share ecology questions and talk about ecology. Again, if you're looking for some experience, then go and go on there and just say, I'm whoever you are, wherever you live, this is what I really want to do. So, you know, people will chip in and give you some ideas and people to get hold of, and, you know, they can help you. So we've also got some job sites. So we've got CJS, which is Countryside Job Service. We've got Environment Job. We've got Jubal, Conservation Careers. If you're more on the conservation side, with sort of reserves management and surveying, stuff like that, rather than the ecological consultancy. There's also ecologyjobs.co.uk and greenjobs.co.uk. So you might find some seasonal jobs there, and they might just be looking for someone to do ecological clerk of works, or some reptile surveys for the summer or something like that. And you won't need a degree for that, or you won't need any experience either. So just keep an eye open for seasonal jobs as well. And I think some of you are going to ask me what's an ecological clerk of works, and I think it was Ian mentioned it earlier. It's basically, if you're, say, clearing a site of vegetation, they have an ecologist on site who actually makes sure that the diggers are actually, you know, not running over a bit that they're not supposed to be running over, and they're not like destroying the hedge that they're supposed to be protecting, and they're not, you know, it's like just somebody that just supervises the work and makes sure that they do all the right things. So that's some work that you can be involved with as well. And really, you've got loads there that I've just talked about. So you know, go to the Facebook groups and ask if there's any opportunities. Don't go for jobs that are beyond your capabilities, because they'll just get annoyed with you because you won't know enough to do them. So start with your sort of junior and assistant jobs, or your sort of basic reptile surveys and your national monitoring and things like that, because, you know, otherwise you're starting to walk before you can run. You know, sorry, you're starting to run before you can walk, and you're just going to trip up. So make sure that the job gives you the experience that you want. So So I'm also encouraging you to start thinking about applying for jobs. But if you feel that you're not ready to apply for a job yet, then the best thing to do is to get some experiences with what I'm talking about tonight. And, you know, maybe look on it as your career plan is like, okay, I'm going to spend the next 2 years getting experience, and then I'll go into ecological consultancy on the 3rd year, or I'll spend this summer getting as much experience as I can, and then next year I'll apply for jobs, or something like that. Okay, so be easy on yourself, know where you are in your own personal journey, and make sure that you know, just pace yourself and not go too mad. But I mean, it depends what you've done. You know, some people have done a lot of survey work in their degrees. For example, I did a lot of botany work in my degree, and so I was able to do botanical surveys straight away, pretty much. So yeah, so have a go, think about what you're able to do now, what skills you might need to start applying for jobs and getting some subcontracting work. And yeah, has anybody got any last questions? We've got a few minutes before the end of the session. Has anybody got any questions?
I've got a question. Hi.
Is that Emma?
Yeah, it's me. Would you recommend trying to get a summer placement after graduating, for example, in an ecological consultancy?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I've been sending some emails to some consultancies, but some of them haven't answered yet. So I suppose I'll wait and try and send more emails to other people. But yeah, I hope I could get something. That'd be great.
I mean, it's a bit like selling yourself, isn't it? And I know we're not trained in our education system to sell ourselves, but basically, I was told with marketing that if you're actually you know, trying to market a product, so let's say the product is you and your existing skills that you have to tell people about it. So otherwise, you might as well be in the dark waving your hands about. So I'll just give you an illustration. Like, you're doing this and nobody knows you're there because you're in the dark. So the only way you can shed the light is to actually tell people that you're looking. All right, so you either use these Facebook groups or write to people and stuff like that. And one thing I do say to my certificate students is don't take it personally if you get rejected. So I ask them to actually collect no's. So you just say, the more no's I collect, the closer I am to a yes. Okay, so you just say, well, they said no, and they said no, and they said no. But as soon as, you know, at some point, somebody's going to say yes, particularly if you're continuing to develop yourself. At some point, you'll reach that amount of experience that people will go, yes, yes, I want you, you know. So definitely start working towards your licenses, for example. And if you can get your licenses, then you're really made. So does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Was it Megan who wanted to ask something?
Hi, it's Louise. I'd got a question.
Louise, okay, yeah.
Hi. I just wondered, because the consultancies are kind of the ones doing most of the surveys, probably during COVID restrictions, although there are lots of things kind of going on. I just wondered, is it worth approaching them to kind of offer even if I haven't got much experience yet, is it still worth offering my sort of volunteer time to get unpaid experience with them, although I couldn't charge them for work, and I don't want to approach them and seem a bit kind of naive and I haven't got a lot of experience, but equally I'm very happy to volunteer for free and get experience through them. Yeah,
definitely. One last tip that I'm going to give you is be as helpful as possible, be as nice as possible, and be as available as possible. Okay. So I have people say to me, oh, I really want to get some experience, and can you take me out at the weekends? I say, well, I work Monday to Friday, so no. Basically, you know, can you come out in the evenings? And they if they can't, then how are you going to get your bat license? You need to be able to do evenings during the week, really. But I had a guy who was working towards his bat license, sitting next to another girl who's working for her bat license, sitting in my bat ecology and surveying course about 4 years ago. And the girl said to me, oh, it's impossible to get a bat license. I can't get any experience and everybody's really horrible and and I was like, okay. so basically all she was doing was complaining and whinging about all the consultants and how nobody's helping her. And sitting next to her was another guy who was on my certificate course, and I said, oh, Andy, do you want to tell this lady how you've nearly got your license this year? And he did his in one survey, which is extraordinary. It took me 3 survey seasons to get mine because I had kids to raise and stuff like that, so I didn't have the time. And he said, I'm just super helpful, I'm just super friendly, and I'm super available. So if somebody phones me and says, oh, Andy, are you free tomorrow night? Yep. What time do you want me? Where do you want me? And he's just really nice to work with, really helpful. And, you know, everybody loves working with Andy. Whereas this other girl was just like, everybody's horrible, and she was really grumpy and really awful. And honestly, if she'd spoken to me like that, I would never have asked her to do a survey ever. You know, so think about who you're working with and what you're offering. It's yourself as well, not just your skills. Are you a nice person to work with? Are you going to let anyone down? And never ever let anyone down. If you say you're going to do a bat survey, then you must do it unless there's some dire massive emergency. Because I had a girl once who didn't turn up to a survey, and she literally, I think the day before the survey, said, are you still okay for tomorrow? She says, oh, I can't make it after all. She didn't give me a reason. She just said she couldn't make it. And so, of course, it was too late notice for me to get another surveyor. I needed that number of surveyors to do the survey. So I had to phone my client and say, one of my surveyors has let me down. I can't come. So we couldn't do the survey. We had to reschedule it. Then we had to reschedule all the other surveyors as well, because this one person let us down, and she didn't explain herself. And I just said to my staff, we're not hiring her again. So do not ever let anyone down unless there's an absolute and utter emergency. All right. So be reliable, be friendly, be the person that they want to work with is a big tip there. Bruce, did you have a quick question? We need to stop in a minute.
Is that a question more of a, I know I have contacted all the local groups that I could think of, and it wasn't very helpful. It was all, oh, well, you can help run the Facebook page, and that was it. And there was no help in that at all. Like, I don't want to help run the Facebook page for you. That doesn't benefit me. So from what I have tried, it's not been any use at all.
Okay. Well, have I given you any new tips today or not?
We'll find out.
I hope so. Yeah, there's lots of things that you could try, really, and I think the consultancies are the way to go, really. So, yeah, if you want to be an ecological consultant, try and get involved with the consultancies. But like I say, you might want to get a bit of experience first and a bit of training as well. Okay, so I'm going to say good night. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I will put this up on a webinar, on the webinar page as a video, and I will see you again at the next one. So the next webinar is on the 9th of March, and it's about the key skills that you need to work in ecological consultancy. Okay, so I hope you'll join me then. Thank you very much, and good night, everybody.